The Enyobeni Tavern toxicology report, the latest toxicology results, that is, show, according to some reports, that the cause of death for 21 young people who were in a tavern in June was suffocation. Some reports that they were crushed as well due to overcrowding. Parents have expressed dissatisfaction in the way in which the Eastern Cape government has handled the matter. Let's talk about this with Dr David Klatzow, consulting forensic scientist. A very good afternoon to you, sir. Welcome to the program. So, let's begin first with these 21 young people, teenagers, children, all said to have suffocated, at least based on what the toxicology report has revealed. How likely is it that they would have been the only people who died in that way, given that the tavern was full that night?
All right. Now, let's get back to square one, because the questions that need to be asked before we go anywhere in this question is, who were these kids? What were they doing there? Were they underage? Was the tavern licensed? Was it checked out? Did the department of whatever department that used to be SANAS used to look after them? Was anybody around to check on whether the place was adequate for such an event? That's the first thing. And my information is that there are only 2 police officers left who go around checking these institutions, which means that many of them are unchecked and irregular. That's the first problem that I have with this. The second thing is that there are differing bits of information creeping out of the investigation so far. The first one was that the toxicology reports were alleged to show that there was methanol in the blood of these unfortunate people who died. Methyl alcohol is a very toxic substance. It's very poisonous, and it should not be in anything that you're drinking or having in any alcoholic liquid that you're drinking. It's quite different from ethyl alcohol, which is the normal alcohol that you drink. The second thing that has come out is now they died not of suffocation as such, but of crush injuries. Now, crush injuries will produce a suffocation because it will prevent you from drawing breath. It will prevent your chest from expanding. And that normally is found in rugby stadia where people push up against a gate or push up against a split thing where they can't get out and people get crushed in the stampede. Now, all of that is, I mean, it might be, both of the causes of death might be relevant. I don't know. But the point is that there is no proper information coming out. Mm-hmm. The death of these children is going to be subject to an inquest, and therefore the pathology reports and the post-mortem reports.
David Klatzow, are you still with us?
And the credential.
Okay, we're having a bit of a connection issue there. Let's see. Right, let's get back to you so we're able to hear you now. We'd lost you for a moment. You can just continue on the point that you were just making.
Okay. What I'm saying is that this whole story is going to be subject to an inquest. And until the papers are actually presented to the inquest court, they remain confidential. They're privileged documents. The moment they're laid before an inquest magistrate, the privilege disappears and everybody will know. However, this does not excuse the authorities for not enlightening the families who are desperate to find out what happened to their loved ones. So I don't know. I'm not sure to what extent this has been investigated. I'm not sure. You know, the problem is that the various parties investigating it are bound by rules that may make it difficult for the outsider to understand.
Right.
And
just on that point, sir, if I can come in there. So the issue with the parents now is that many of them have taken issue with the fact that they were called in individually and briefed about the toxicology report, but what they say is they want to be able to get full access to the reports. Would that be going too far legally? I know you said once it's before a magistrate or a magistrate's court, then it becomes a public document. But at this point, would there be any harm in them getting access to the report?
At this point, it is still privileged, and it may result down the line of a criminal prosecution against people or persons unknown at this point. and to divulge that information at this stage would be damaging to any state case that may come about. So, yeah. But given the fact that 22 youngsters died under these circumstances, I would have thought that would have been pushed to the head of the queue.
Right. And on that then, now that we've moved from methanol, which would have been an irregular sort of alcohol substance, to be
no, because if the information that was given to me by a very reliable source in the past, if that information was that there was methanol, that needs to be further followed up.
Right. So let's take the methanol then, take that along with this information now of a crush and suffocation. Do the latter two then suggest then that there's a higher chance of someone being held responsible for the circumstances of these deaths?
Well, it depends. If it's crush, in other words, if there's a panic stampede which could not have been foreseen by the owner, which is possible, but it's also likely that if you let 100 people into a room that's meant for 25, you're looking for trouble. So it may well lead to criminal prosecutions. Overcrowding is something which could have been foreseen, and the consequences could have been foreseen. And therefore, it could lead to culpable homicide or even criminal charges of murder against the owner of the establishment. If you know that there's likely to be a stampede and that is going to cause the deaths of somebody, and you continue to let people in, that is a criminal offense. However, it's a different offense to serving them alcohol, which has got methanol. And there you'd have to show that the person in the nightclub knew that he was serving that, and there's other things that have come out as well, namely that the children may well have been drinking elsewhere. Now, if they've been drinking elsewhere, then it opens up the case very widely, and it needs to be very broadly investigated. But my information is that there are problems with getting these children and their parents to talk about it. So I think that what one really needs is one has to have an independent research worker out there to investigate the deaths, because this is unacceptable. And if the root causes are not dealt with, it's going to happen again.
And I don't know if I'm going too far out here. Would their age and the quote-unquote average size of a teenager have been a factor in what the cause of death is now named to have been, and how quickly they may have succumbed?
Yes, of course it would. Young children are very vulnerable to injuries, number one. Number two, they're very vulnerable to toxic chemicals. You need less of a toxic chemical to kill a child than to kill an adult. So it's dose dependent, and all of those would play a role. And the other thing as well, which would play a role, is how experienced you are drinking. Old people like me who've been drinking all their life are much more resistant to alcohol than whose first occasion it is out. So all of these factors play a role. Your body acclimatizes itself to the ill effects of alcohol, and it's very important. And also, if you're young, your chest is very easily deformed and crushed, whereas if you're older, it's less likely. You've got more musculature, and you're more powerful, and you can withstand it. But kids that are stood on and crushed and pushed up against the barrier are very vulnerable to crush injuries. And the most serious of those would obviously be prevention of them being able to breathe, and that kind of crush injury can easily result in death very quickly.
Dr. David Klatzow, good to speak to you. Thank you for your time and insight.